Michael, we are live. How are you today?
Good morning, Martin. I am doing awesome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Let's welcome everybody back to the show. Welcome everybody to AGTP Daily. We go live, as you know, every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss the most important tech stories in the United States. Today is Tuesday, the 12th of May, 2026. Let's get right to it, Martin.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Sam Altman just remains under fire. And for a bunch of different reasons, we'll get to that. Aaron Levie, who's the CEO of Box, I love his stuff. He says the AI services boom is on. And later in the show, we will be joined by Sagi Rodin, the CEO and co-founder at Frontegg, to explore how identity infrastructure helps SaaS companies secure AI agents, govern autonomous access, and scale enterprise-ready applications. Sounds like a great show to me.
Great show. We always do a great show, Michael.
we do indeed. Okay, look, it looks to me like Elon Musk is going after OpenAI, Sam Altman, and Greg Brockman, a guy we don't really talk about a lot, but he's still out there, right? And let's just get into the details first so we can get some context. Elon Musk is suing OpenAI and its CEO, Sam Altman, in federal court in Oakland, California. I think both of these companies are based in California, right? Now, there is an argument here that Elon Musk's trial against OpenAI has become less of like a narrow corporate governance thing, because that's really where that's the basis for this. It's like, you said you're going to do this, but now you're doing that. But what's ending up happening, Martin, is it's more like this public digging into of OpenAI's internal power struggles, and it harkens back to some of the stuff that was going on back in 2023, especially around Sam Altman's leadership. But we'll get to that too.
When Sam Altman was fired for a few days, right? Back in
fired for a few days, yeah. I'd love to be fired for just like a few days myself. Just a few days, though. And I'm thinking, I know you're thinking, I'd fire you for like a few weeks if I had my choice.
Yeah, maybe.
But Musk's core claim here is that OpenAI betrayed this nonprofit mission that it started with by moving toward a for-profit structure. Because at the beginning, they were like, we were just going to do this. We're going to try to help humanity. OpenAI, like it's in the name. It's just we're doing this for everybody.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, and also that one of the arguments for Musk is that he put a lot of money into the non-profit. So he was funding the non-profits. That's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and remember, this is back before he started his own AI company as well. I think people need to know this, because in my mind, and we'll get to this as well as we go through this, you know, we talked about it when we showed that chart. XAI versus like XAI's penetration in the market per se versus OpenAI, it's like night and day.
Especially nowadays, like they really, like I feel like, you know, AI has really evolved, right? Like where it was a chat, you know, chat GPT back in 2022. Then we had the Midjourney, we had Grok, we had like all the other, I would say not small, but all the other use cases that were fun but not very, very useful. And I think sometime in 2025, it completely switched to focusful developers, right? And then we had like all the agentic AI and all the use cases that we are using right now. But I feel right now the base usage of AI is really towards the developers, and that's where
clearly that's where everyone's making all their money, right?
That's where they are making all of their money. And the two models that just work really nicely for that are OpenAI GPT-5 and
Anthropic,
right? And Grok and everybody else, they just don't participate at all into the biggest use case
because they don't have their equivalent to Codex or to Claude Code. They just don't have it.
They don't have it, and it looks like they were not built for that. They didn't. I don't know if they didn't expect that. They didn't see that coming. I have no idea, right? But it's true that today, in the biggest use case we see for AI, Grok is completely out of the discussion, right? Like they are not there at all.
So let's just go through a little bit more of this, if you don't mind. So again, like I said, the core claim is that you said you're going to do this, but now you're moving to a for-profit structure. But the trial, because they go to trial in court, they have to bring in witnesses and all this other stuff. It surfaced some stuff from OpenAI insiders alleging that Sam Altman was chaotic, like that his leadership style was like opaque, and that he was insufficiently candid with like colleagues in the board. Of course, OpenAI is going to deny all this stuff, but I want to go through a bunch of facts, actually, if you don't mind, before we get to the real analysis here.
Let's go.
Just so everybody has all the information they need. let's go back to the beginning. OpenAI was founded in 2015.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. As a nonprofit AI research company with a mission to advance digital intelligence for broad human benefit, not for financial return. And I remember when Sam Altman left YC,
Mhm.
I'm like, that's a big baller move. He's like, I'm not going to do Y Combinator anymore, but this AI thing is too important to leave it in the hands of like crazy people. So I'm going to do this anyway. So in 2019, OpenAI created a capped profit structure saying it needed more capital while
Okay.
still keeping the mission under nonprofit control. But he was like, we need to make a little bit of money because if we don't make a little bit of money, we won't have enough money to spend on the stuff that we want to do so we can help humanity.
Okay.
Then Microsoft became OpenAI's key strategic and infrastructure partner, with OpenAI saying that Azure supported its model training and inference workloads. And then Musk says OpenAI and Altman violated the founding bargain. This is all part of the trial, yeah, by moving away from nonprofit control and public benefit commitments. And OpenAI said, you know that Elon Musk was in there going, yeah, we can make some money. We can make some money privately. You know this, right? And it says that OpenAI also says this, that previously supported a for-profit structure and walked away when he did not get control. Can I make a case here about something that you may not know?
Tell me.
Or that the audience may not know? Elon Musk did not found Tesla.
No, he acquired it, right? From 2 guys.
Well, he kind of wrangled it from them.
Okay.
I wouldn't say he didn't walk in and go like, hey, Bob and Tom, this is really great.
That's my thought.
Can I take charge? And they were like, sure. We have tennis plans anyway. Like, I don't think that's how that happened.
We have tennis later. Can you come and run the company for us? Thank
Yeah,
you.
we got other plans. I got dinner at 7. I mean, I can't focus on this. But I think the same thing happened here. I think he thought he could just walk in and run over Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, and they were like, what are you doing? And I can see him. He's very mercurial, right? I can see him just storming out of the room and just going like, I can't control this thing. Fine. And I don't think fine was the word he used that began with F, but fine. Let's just leave it there. And I think he just walked out and just got mad. Now, this trial has featured testimony from Mira Murati, Helen Toner, Natasha McCauley, and Ilya Sustiver about concerns over Altman's leadership in Canada, but that's not what this trial is supposed to be about. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can say whatever you want about like profit versus nonprofit. If that's the argument, though, then why are we saying like he's a bad leader?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. And Satya Nadella also testified in this thing, and he criticized the 2023 board effort to remove Altman, obviously because he's got a ton of money invested in it. And he wants leadership continuity, which it's just like football, right? You want the same guys to play together the whole time because that way the team's just going to be better.
Yes.
And you want the coach to say this, so the head coach or whatever, the manager, whatever you want to call it, to stay the same, because the longer they're there, the better they're going to work together. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, and so Satya Nadella even said that he didn't receive any clear explanation about why Sam Altman should be fired, except like, I don't like that guy. That doesn't seem like a good enough answer. But here's the thing. You know, Musk is really powerful. He's got a lot of powerful people behind him, and he's looking for some serious remedy here. Remedy is like what the court will decide if they decide in his favor. So it's kind of a legal term. He wants to get rid of Altman and Greg Brockman again, which feels like punitive to me, but it also feels retaliatory. Like, I really don't like those guys, and let's just get rid of them. He wants to undo their profit for structure. Is that self-interested at all? What do you think, Martin? Right. And he wants a large financial restitution. So he wants to get paid a ton of money. Somewhere between 134 and 150, you should sit down for this, $1 billion.
Oh wow. It's really precise what he wants. It's really precise. It's like the range is super small, right?
Well, I think it's more precise than that if you ask him.
Yeah, okay.
But he's probably not saying it publicly. He's probably saying it during the trial, and maybe the exact number's not getting out. But also a guy like that could be going like, I want 135. No, I want 150 kind of thing, because what's the difference, right?
Yeah, especially for, at this level, for sure. Yeah.
At that level, what's the difference? Anyway, so the real question here, though, is well, there are a bunch of questions. Was there anything you wanted to add or no?
No. Go ahead.
So the real question here is this really about OpenAI's legal structure? Like, is this what Musk really cares about?
Okay.
Or Does he care about having more influence in the AI space, and is he trying to help his own company?
No, it's
But
true. I mean,
it's weird though, because if it was Anthropic, you would know, kind of in a way, because they're kind of peers. No, you would say that Anthropic and OpenAI are peers, and some
yeah,
are good at this and some are good at that, but they're both really good. Codex, argues with
yes,
Claude Code as to which one is better or worse, but people are religious about this and people are religious about that one too. So it's like those are peers. So if this was between those two, you wouldn't even say there's no question here about what this suit would be about,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It feels that it should be Dario Amodei would do this trial, right? But it's because then he would have like a really really good angle for actually attaching OpenAI, right? And when hoping to get like larger market share.
Mm-mm-mm.
But yeah, it's Elon Musk. It's Elon Musk who is doing that. So in a way, like I don't know, I don't know. I didn't check enough information and stuff like that about the trial. So I don't know like too much details and things. But I don't know. I feel like it's pretty hard to believe that he wants to take down OpenAI, where his market share are so far away.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. So yeah,
even because even if OpenAI becomes the for profit, the big winner in the story is Anthropic, right? Like that's not. I mean, maybe not because even if they are the non-profit, it doesn't mean they stop selling their stuff, right? It just means that then the structure, like the interest of the investor, is going to be different. So maybe it's harder to raise money or stuff like that. I have no idea, but the clear winner must be Anthropic, and Elon Musk is so far away, right? He's not competing at all. They are not peers, as you just say. So I find it a little bit hard to believe that's his intent to do all of this from day one just for AI.
no way.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No way. And so this is the real question, right? Is like, is he just trying to figure out how can I take control of this?
Oh, you think you want to be back in charge?
Well, he stormed out of the room. You know this. Like this is well documented, right? He stormed out of the room in 2018 when they were just like, "Yeah, you can't take control of this." In the same way that I think he took control of Tesla, and has been his modus operandi as well. The way he operates. Sorry, yeah. And sure, he can make the claim that OpenAI's commercial evolution looks really different than what they said they were going to do at the beginning. But is that illegal? Do you know what I mean? In other words, let's say you say, I want to do a nonprofit because I think I can really help humanity by doing this thing. And then people start coming and throwing money at you going, hey, this thing can make a ton of money. Well, then you can have the .org part of this, right? The thing that's supposed to be a nonprofit, but then you can have the profitable side of it as well.
Yeah, true. That's how, like, for example, WordPress is built, right? That there's the WordPress fund.
That's exactly the thing that I was going to talk about.
Okay, perfect.
Because WordPress.org is a nonprofit.
Yes, that's a nonprofit, and they own the WordPress core code, right? And so all the hours that the team put, through their engineering team, like actually goes to build the WordPress foundation that is open source, and this is for everybody, basically,
Exactly.
right? And then they have this entire ecosystem of products around that, right? So the hosting, the plugins, the payments, and all of this. But they do measure the investment of companies into the foundation in terms of how many engineer hours they put in to actually contribute to the core software that is open source, right? So that's like how it's structured, and yeah, it works really really well. And Automatic, right, the company behind WordPress, they have that. So Automatic is the commercial entity that makes money, and they have the foundation WordPress.org that is open source, that owns the open source WordPress.
And no one seems to be suing
Matt Mullenweg.
Matt Mullenweg because there's gambling going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is from Casablanca.
Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't understand that reference, this is from Casablanca. It's like everybody knows what's going on, and somehow Elon Musk wants to sue them for it. And I guess this is part of the problem with the legal system in the United States is if somebody sues you, you have to respond.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's the rule of a trial, right? Like to define what's been done, if it's legal or not, right? I guess we will see, right?
But so here's one of the other points that I want to make, and I'm going to keep banging on this, Martin, as we go through this, because there are a few other things to go through, right?
Tell me.
I titled this at the beginning, like Sam Altman remains under fire.
Yeah.
To me, this feels like a personal attack.
Okay.
It just feels like that, right? And he's been under fire like all year.
Yeah.
We know that. In other words, the testimony here should really be about, like, if you're going to give testimony, in a trial, and if the trial is about, you said you were going to be a nonprofit, but now you're going out to try to make money. You've raised a ton of money, and I gave you the money to do this thing, but you decided to do another thing, and that's disingenuous. But in trial, the lawyers can ask you kind of anything. So what they're trying to establish here, and apparently some of the worst testimony came from this person, Ilya Sutskever,
Okay.
who was an OpenAI co-founder and the former chief scientist, right? So one of the most respected names in artificial intelligence.
Yes.
He is quoted as saying during the trial, under oath, that Sam Altman exhibits a consistent pattern of lying, undermining his executives and pitting his executives against one another.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, and that's not good.
No.
Okay, he also testified that he spent about a year quietly gathering evidence of Sam Altman's dishonesty at the board's request before they finally tried to fire him.
Fire Sam, right?
Fire Sam Altman, yes.
not
But this
Ilya.
feels a
Okay.
little snakish to me. This is what we say in English, right? The dude
Yes,
feels like a little bit of a snake. I mean, I know he's really well respected, and again, I'm not trying to make any ad hominem attacks on him, but he literally went behind everybody's back. The board asked him to do this for a year. Really? That's the best use of your time?
Yeah, no, for sure.
But
It's true.
remember, what's this trial about? It's about,
The
you
non-profit.
said you were going to be nonprofit, and now you're making a profit. You, Martin, you've never worked at a big company before, but I have. I've worked at a few of them. And he says, senior management exhibits a consistent pattern of lying, undermining his execs, and pitting them against one another.
That's everyday life. You're like, yeah.
I don't know. I remember having lunch with the head of equities.
Okay.
I'm not even going to say which company, but you know who you are. And I remember having lunch with him after he promoted somebody ahead of me.
Okay.
And I was like, there's no scenario under which I'm going to work for that guy.
Okay.
And this is pitting two executives against each other. One of them was lying. One of them, like, it's just every day in big corporations. I don't understand how this is some big swipe at Sam Altman. Sam Altman probably saw this and was like,
Of course, like.
I'm the CEO. What's my job? Like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
This is really interesting, and so now I understand like your title of Sam Altman remains under fire, because it looks like it's another attempt. Like it's attempt to what, 45, right? Like against Sam Altman himself, right? And there have been so many things in the past month, right? If we just like really focus on the past couple of weeks, we have talked about so many stories about things against Sam Altman himself, and not necessarily OpenAI, not necessarily the models or the product or all of that, but really just about Sam Altman himself, right?
Right.
And you're right, like it's weird to do a trial about a non-profit that becomes a for-profit, and is that a problem? That's the big question of the trial. But then we talk about Sam Altman so much through people, by the way, who all left the company. It's like all the Ilya, all the Mira Murati, Elon Musk, all of these guys, they had problems with OpenAI and they all left, right? So it's like asking your ex-girlfriend, am I a great boyfriend, right? Like, of course, if you only ask all the ex-girlfriend, they are all going to say it's bad, right?
Right.
Here, like, why don't we have, the head of something at OpenAI that's been here since 2015 and we're still here, right?
Like why don't we ask Greg Brockman, who's still there, who's another co-founder?
Exactly, right?
Like
there's what, 6,000 employees at OpenAI, something like this. Like why we speak so much about like the 3 or 4 who left, right, and not the 5,500 who are actually still there, right? Maybe we have a completely different story about OpenAI itself, and so that's why I think it really corroborate what you say, which is it looks like it's an attempt at Sam Altman himself, right? Like they are aiming at him and not necessarily OpenAI or the product or whatever.
Yeah, and there's more here. Can I just run through a few more of these things that happened at the trial, because I think it's interesting. So former board member Tasha McCauley testified that Altman created chaos and crisis through a culture of lying and deceit. Oh, okay. Wait, and here's the thing. She gives a specific example. Altman told the board that the legal department had cleared GPT-4 Turbo from needing a safety board review before launching in India, and it hadn't.
Okay.
Oh my God! So he just like punched a product through without getting the right approvals. I've never seen that happen before. And telling the board, yeah, it's fine.
This is such a great point that you are making, because for the general public, right, like the 900 million weekly users of GPT,
Right.
for them, these type of claims are going to be so impressive, right? They're going to be like,
Be
oh,
like,
Sam
he,
Altman is so bad, and
he
blah, blah, blah,
lied to the
blah.
board.
He lied to the board and all of that. But for people who are actually, in the bubble, they are like, yeah, that just happen every day. That's just
Every
normal
day.
business, right? But so
Yeah.
which means those people who are saying this type of thing at the trial, they know very well what's going on. They know that
That's why
what
I
the
told you
tech
that
bubble
Casablanca.
says.
That's why I told you that
Yeah,
Casablanca story at the
yeah,
beginning. Because
exactly.
you
Yeah.
just made the point. They know very well what's going on.
They know very well what's going on. Like there is no, I mean, like Elon Musk knows very well that he may be the first one to lie and deceive and do all of
So
his thing, right?
you're telling me that at Tesla that Elon Musk is not lying to anybody, and there's not like a day-to-day crisis at SpaceX.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Have you
especially
lost your mind completely?
that is how as well. Like if you look it through the lens of it's just normal business, right? It's just
Hmm.
like the thing that just happened normally. Then the only people who can be, I think, like what's the word? Influenced by this type of narrative are the
Mm-mm.
general public who are not exposed to this type of
Yeah,
work
to these like
environment, right?
insider kind of things that happens at big corporations.
Yes.
There's more here, right? Because Macaulay said that these kinds of incidents triggered crisis events every few months. Every few months. Have you worked at a big company? Like, how about every few minutes? And here, a couple more things, Martin, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Victor, go ahead.
Back in 2023, OpenAI's board actually fired Altman over these concerns.
Yeah.
But he was reinstated, and this gets back to something you were talking about a few minutes ago. He was reinstated just 5 days later after a near revolt by employees and pressure from Microsoft. So the internal employees are just like, okay, they may be complaining about a whole bunch of stuff that he did to them,
But it's fine for us.
but the company's on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're growing really fast and we're raising a ton of money, and don't get in our way. And I think that's what Sam Altman was doing. He was just like, don't get in our way. And remember, it said from pressure from Microsoft as well,
Mm.
which back then was probably the biggest shareholder. So Satya Nadella also took the stand. You know what that means, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
had
yes,
to
yes, yes.
testify at the trial.
Yep.
And Nadella said he never got a straight answer about why Altman was fired. He said, I never got any clarity from anyone on that.
That's crazy. Huh? It's not the type
He
of guy that
he called the board's handling of this amateur city, and said that if they kept Sam Altman fired, they feared a mass employee exodus. And he said, Nadella also confirmed that Musk never raised any concerns with him about Microsoft investment violating any special terms. Meaning, because Microsoft invested to make money.
That's a big support, right? Because we're talking about Microsoft, talking about the CEO of Microsoft, right? Like we're talking about somebody who has like money, power, connection, that is inside the tech bubble and he knows everything, right?
Yeah.
He knows everyone. So when bad guys say, to me, it's fine, basically, right? There's no problem. Like,
Right.
what are you talking about? To me, it's like really, really massive support, which once again, like, go to, like, help the story of like, where are the 500 employee of OpenAI that are just happy and we just want to keep going, right? Like, why we don't talk about these guys, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But
So
also,
go ahead.
like, just something
Go ahead.
to add, like all of these guys, like Ilya, Mira, Elon Musk, they were all like pretty much co-founders of OpenAI, right? Like there was like Dario Amodei as well, like which by the way, that's pretty funny that Dario Amodei is not there, right?
Not testifying.
And not
Nor is
testifying.
his sister.
Yeah, that's pretty funny to me, right? Like they look like they are the one with the most to win, and they in a way show how focused they are, right? Like they just work and they do the job. Maybe so it's better to get out, like, I mean, to keep out to avoid, any sort of conflict of interest or to be perceived like this, right? But yeah, like it's all co-founders, right, who were there at the beginning. And I mean, how many stories have we heard about co-founders not being happy anymore to work with each other and then they just split up, right? It's just that here OpenAI is such a huge company, right? And it grew so fast and it's AI and it's gonna change the world and all of that, but it's just so much bigger But having co-founders that disagree with each other and split up is completely normal, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
something that's absolutely crazy that happens every day. We
Every
just
day.
don't talk about it because all the companies that get split are not worth talking about. OpenAI, it's a different story with a lot of light, with a lot of exposure, and that's why it makes a big drama. But at the end of the day, co-founders who argue and fight, it's normal business once again, right?
Completely, and especially, I mean, you want to say that OpenAI is still a startup, but it's been around, like we said, for like more than 10 years. Started in 2015, but probably started going profitable. Not profitable. It's like thinking about taking profit in 2018. So it's been a while. But the real point is that anytime you have enough humans in one place where there's a board of directors and equity and all this other kind of stuff, they're going to lie to each other.
Yeah.
They're going to create chaos. Like, look around in just your regular life.
Yes.
Anyway,
That's true.
this is silliness. So, like I said, the title of this is Sam Altman Remains Under Fire.
Yeah.
It's not just this. And again, it feels like remember we said this a few weeks ago. It feels like there's this concerted effort and that people are piling on.
Yep. Definitely.
Can we spend a little bit of time talking about this other thing?
Let's do it.
So it turns out that the U.S. House of Representatives Oversight Committee,
okay,
which is kind of a regulatory body, right?
Okay.
Let me just see what it says. Yeah, an oversight and accountability. Is launching a formal probe into Sam Altman's personal investments.
Okay.
And separately, 6 Republican state attorney generals have written to the SEC urging it to review OpenAI's governance before any IPO proceeds. This is piling on.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And now it's really serious, like they are like going into his investment, and that can get really, really bad really quickly. Huh?
Right. Now, I don't want to mention any names here, but, and this is not a political show. I'm not making a political stance either way, whatever that means. But does it strike you as coincidence that Elon Musk used to work in whatever this government is and has influence inside the government?
Yeah.
And let's just say the dumbest person in Congress, maybe one of the dumbest people in Congress, I don't even need to say his name, is the chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability.
Okay.
So he's the one doing this inquiry.
Okay.
And you just have to wonder why. So, and there's other stuff to talk about today, but I just want to run through this. Again, just getting back to this idea in Casablanca of like there's gambling going on in here. If you look at the net worth of a lot of people that go into Congress in the United States, we talked about this before we started recording, before they go in. And I just want to see, just before I feel like I'm speaking out of school right here. Give me 1 second.
Have a look. Yep.
So most members of the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate earn a base salary of $174,000. Leadership roles, say again?
Per year. 175 per year. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But remember, they also have to maintain 2 homes because they have a house in Kentucky or wherever they're from, and then they have to live in D.C. as well. Some of the more senior people make, it says like 223 grand.
Okay.
How are some of them having like net worths of like 30 or 40 million bucks? Just have to ask yourself that. Anyway, my point is that, like, again, just to go back to that scene in Casablanca where the prefect of police closes the place down because he says there's gambling going on in there, and then somebody from the casino that's in the back of the cafe comes out and gives him his winnings, and then he shuts down the place and leaves. And that's what this feels like to me. I'm not saying that Sam Altman has not, because you and I have talked about this, I've spoken about this offline. I'm not saying that there might be some conflict of interest between him investing in some of these companies and then having OpenAI try to support those companies. But I'm also not naive enough to know that he's the only one doing this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but it looks like everything that Sam Altman has been doing maybe the last 10 or 15 or 20 years is going to be looked at, right? Like they are not going to stop, right? And this it looks like, it looks like Musk is actually maybe the orchestrator behind all of that, right? And maybe his motive, as you say, is to just take back control of OpenAI. XAI is not working, it's not getting the market share that he wants. What he needs, it's just get back the control of OpenAI, right? It's public, it's big, it's like it's a huge storm, right? That is trying, I mean, that is trying to create to get back the control. But maybe that's the motive here. Maybe that's the end goal, because it's true that there's tons of stuff against Sam Altman himself, right? It's like, I mean, it starts to be like, I mean, that type of stuff, like where they are going to look at his investment, like what's the next step? Is that there is one thing, one day, 2009, where
Yeah.
the contract was, there was a comma like two words too early, and so then it changed the sentence meaning, and so then there's a breach of contract, and so
So
then
that
blah blah
happened.
blah
That
blah blah.
happened to a company in Maine, actually. That
Okay.
they had a comma in the wrong place and lost like $5 million. But here's the other thing. You remember the company we were talking about, Helion, right?
Yes.
So this is one of the companies that they're focusing on. But you can't tell me, Martin, that you don't. And you can go back to your thought a second. You can't tell me you don't think that Elon Musk is a little bit petty, a little bit vindictive, and a bit of a bully.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right.
Especially when you are like Elon Musk, like all the money and all the power that he has, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think like when you start looking at the investment and how he's making money and all of that, it starts to be really, really dangerous, because for sure at some point something will not super clean, even if you want it or not, right? Like even if you have all the good intention in the world, I don't know like how many investments he made, but tons of them, right? Like the numbers like in the hundreds, right? Like where he was investing when he was at YC and all of that. I'm sure at some point there is something a little bit gray, right? Because they just do it, right? And there was no bad intention at all, right? But then they can use this to put like a big, much bigger problem on him because of this little comma that was not
Exactly. It's a
not at the
comma.
right place, right?
Right.
I think this is really dangerous. And when we start looking at this type of thing, yeah, it can get really bad. So hopefully everything is super clean. But once again, I'm pretty sure you can't be super clean on everything. There's always something somewhere.
But also, this is what I like to call selective prosecution. Like you could probably go into any big corporation and just say there's like that, and you could probably go to any congressperson and say like there's a conflict of interest between the laws that you're passing, and the things in which you're investing. And there was this recent bill introduced in the United States Congress, I believe, that said that Congress people and senators should not be allowed to trade stocks.
I mean, yeah.
And they were like, why not?
Maybe because you make the law, maybe?
Why not? Like, why not?
Yeah,
it all seems like a little bit silly to me. But anyway, so I feel like, again, this is piling on. That's why the title of this was like Sam Altman remains under fire. And I don't think this is going to end. And to be fair, I don't think what's going to happen here is that Elon Musk, I don't think he's going to win this trial. I don't know the answer to that question, right? And you can call Sam Altman a liar. Maybe he's deceitful and all this other stuff, but he's the CEO of a big company. I can't be led to believe in all my senior interactions with senior management above me that none of them were lying and none of them were being deceitful. nor were any of them not pitting other senior executives against each other. To try to get stuff done.
But like I mean, we also maybe talk about the resilience of Sam Altman up until now, right? Because he's been fired, and he came back. Like, how does he sleep at night, right? Like, his life must be insane, right? Like, there's even people who shoot at his house. Like, it's crazy, right? His life, like right now, are just like crazy. He's attacked from every angle, so that's why, like, no wonder why they launch a phone and they buy, this app and all of this. He doesn't have any time to think about the business properly. He must be so busy just worrying about all of these things, and now they attack him personally, right? That's a whole different story, because once again, like, if not everything is clean and the SEC gets involved, now maybe it can get like really bad really fast.
Right.
So now I think we reach another level, and that's on him personally. So how do you want him to focus on raising money, building the next model, doing a great IPO? I mean, it's just,
if you're constantly coming after the guy, if you're constantly attacking him, how do you expect him to get anything good done? And I would say this too, Martin. There are some companies whose so here's the other thing. No other employee who's internal, as you mentioned, has complained.
Yeah, we don't hear anything about
none. And Microsoft Satya Nadella said he was afraid that there was going to be a massive leaving of people if Sam Altman was fired. So what does that tell you about the remaining employees' loyalty to him?
Yeah,
we don't know. We're not internal, but you and I kind of had this epiphany a few days ago. We were like, there must be a great team there.
For sure. Let's just go one layer below, right? Let's just like
Yeah.
forget for one moment all the craziness about Sam Altman. Let's just remove Sam Altman from OpenAI, which is, by the way, the goal, right? But if we do that, if we remove Sam Altman and all the narration around Sam Altman himself
Right.
out of the OpenAI story, what's left? An amazing model, tons of the developers all around the world who are using it and say it's great. 900 million people use ChatGPT on a weekly basis. It's amazing, right? Like all of these are just amazing, great products that are used and loved by millions and millions of people, right? So if we remove all the craziness and we really focus on the good part of OpenAI, it's just a really, really great company that is able to make amazing products. So which means the team that is making this happen is really talented and at least as good as the Anthropic team, right? Like there is no better team. They are both equal. At least they are able to make amazing products. It's just that in OpenAI case, there's just so much more than the product, right? The entire story, the entire narration about OpenAI is way more about Sam Altman stuff that happens to him, plus the craziness that they are doing instead of the product itself, right? Where Anthropic
Go
talk
ahead.
about the product only. There is no craziness at all, right? So,
well, we don't know because the culture of Anthropic is different than the culture of OpenAI, and the only people that are saying that there's craziness and chaos are employees that have left OpenAI, none of the employees that are there. And I would make the case, Martin, as well, that this idea of like pitting executives against each other, making them compete with each other. I mean, Microsoft was wildly famous for this. The way they ranked, the way they evaluated their employees was something called stacked ranking.
Okay.
So like you and I could not get the same, like if you and I worked in the same group, you and I could not get the same score.
Okay.
So part of my role would be to make you look like a complete idiot every day because I don't know what the numbers were.
Okay.
But like if I got an 89 and you got an 87, I'm getting the promotion kind of thing. And it created like this like snake pit of competition inside of Microsoft.
Yeah.
Nobody complained about it internally. Well, maybe they did. We don't know. But Microsoft created so many millionaires that people they were willing to put up with it at some level. But the point is that like even in a company as robust and as longstanding as Microsoft, probably had some of the same issues going on that happened at OpenAI. Now the question is, you said Sam Altman was just resilient. I want to get on to the next topic in a moment. You said Sam Altman was resilient, and I agree with you. But the other question is, will he stay?
Yeah.
Because he has no financial incentive to stay.
I mean, he has, right? Like
what is it? He doesn't own any stock.
It's just not clear, but he has. This is where the investigation into how he made his investment can become really bad, really quickly.
Really bad. Go down a rabbit hole really fast.
Yeah, because he has. Like, I mean, he definitely has, and we talked about a lot of example where he was asking OpenAI to become a client, or OpenAI acquiring a company that he invested in, right? So this type of conflict of interest, we don't know how big it is, we don't know like how deep it is, right? So maybe there's way more, right? So that's his financial incentive. But yeah, but at some point maybe he might quit just himself. You know what, guys? That he just get too crazy.
Enough. Yeah, just like
it's
enough
just
already.
on the personal level, right? Like you want me to keep going with the OpenAI, with the mission and all of that. That's great, but on the personal level, it just get too crazy. I mean, that's when people start to shoot at his house, right? It's crazy, right? Like that is. I think to me that would be like a wake up call, right? Like wait, we are going into a direction that's getting like personally dangerous, right? So maybe we need to gel down things a little bit.
Yeah, let's just calm down a bit.
Yeah, let's just calm down a little bit. So, but yeah, that is really resilient. I think that he is already a billionaire, right? Sam Altman.
Yes.
Like so, I mean, 10, 15, 20, right? Like at some point, he's not going to die with his money, right? So yeah, maybe at some point he's just going to say that's enough, and maybe that's the goal, right? Like of Musk and all of it. So maybe actually he's not going to do that just to not make them win, right? So
I hope so. So my hope is that he doesn't leave actually, because I feel like having him there, and we talked about this as well, and we should move on to the next topic in a second, but I feel like having him there keeps the personality and differentiation of OpenAI in a way that I think is important to compete with Anthropic, to compete with Cursor, but also to keep Elon Musk away from the company. Because I think the worst thing that could possibly happen was that OpenAI gets folded into XAI. And then for no particular reason, somehow Elon Musk is now in charge of another company he didn't start, but that has a lot of influence and a lot of great products. What are we doing?
Yeah, that's an interesting end goal that most should be looking for, right?
I mean, maybe we don't know that for sure, but historic precedence tells us that like that's not impossible.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to our next topic. Aaron Levie, who is the CEO of Box and one of my favorite people to follow on X.
You talk about Aaron all the time.
I do, but he's just so smart and so thoughtful and so like, again, I don't know how he's running Box all day when he's making these unbelievable posts on X, but some guys can do two things at once. But his quote here is, the need and opportunity for professional services and FDs to deploy agents right now is massive. But again, let me give some background here, if you don't mind. His argument is that every tech wave, and you've heard me say this as well, creates a new services layer. In other words, yeah, there's this tech out there, but like, how do we use it? Who's going to employ it for us? How do we like make sure that inside of our company we're doing the right thing?
Yes.
And he believes that AI is not going to be any different. His point here is that enterprise AI is not just like, okay, you just need to buy the model, turn it on, and get productivity. It feels a little too simplistic, right? It requires, and I love how they already have a term for this, FDEs, we'll get to that in a second. It requires forward deployed technical people who can modernize data, map all this stuff, wire agents into workflows, even change the workflows that you have, evaluate all this stuff internally, and then manage, this is important too, manage this organizational redesign of who does what. Right. And he frames this as a massive opportunity for new AI service companies, internal AI deployment teams, and new roles inside enterprise. Remember, he's been making this argument for a while now that like people may lose their jobs, but all these new jobs like this are going to be created. And the context here, we've spoken about this both with Anthropic and OpenAI, right? Because OpenAI just started a company called Deployment Company. Right, backed by more than $4 billion, majority owned and controlled by OpenAI, and blah blah. We talked about this, right? And that's going to have approximately 150 AI engineers and deployment specialists that are going to fan out into the companies. Remember, we talked about this, yeah? And Anthropic is doing this on the PE side, the private equity and the venture capital side, working with some of, whether it's Blackstone or Goldman or whomever, to go out and do a similar thing. But his argument, again, is that these FDEs, and I love this term, field deployment engineers, I want to call them forward deployment engineers.
Okay.
I don't know why that sounds better to me. I know they're out in the field, but still, they're moving forward. They're moving companies forward. I don't know.
Okay. You have a point. Yeah, you have a point.
Yeah. But again, one of the reasons why I like him is because he never just makes a statement and moves on. Right, he gives an example, and one of the examples is cloud, right? This analog to digital shift that happened in the 90s and the on-prem to cloud migration in the 2010s both created massive consulting industries around it because you knew you had to do it.
It was hard, and so you need some help.
But you weren't sure how. Right? And I don't think this is going to be any different. Go ahead.
I really don't know, to be honest. I think the massive difference with AI compared to cloud.
Well, it's harder and moving faster.
It's harder. It's moving faster, but it gets easy every day. It gets easier every day. Like the barrier to be able to use AI is actually getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And I don't know how low it's going to get. I don't know like how much technical you will need to be able to use AI in 5 years.
It's not just that. It's not just the technical skill, though, Martin. Right. So again, let's just go back to what he said. It requires forward deployed technical people who can modernize data, map the permissions, change the workflows, analyze the performance of the stuff you're putting into place.
Yeah.
Maintain the agents after the models change, because they will change, and manage the organizational redesign of who does what.
That's true.
So one of the things that I do is I spend a lot of time, and you know this, talking to people inside the companies And one of the biggest discussions we've been having over the last 3 or 4 months is about AI. And I've had specific conversations with people saying that this is not a technical problem for them. You're right. The artificial intelligence itself is very easy.
It's
Sorry.
much more.
It's getting easier to use and to deploy. But you have to deploy it into an environment that's ready for it.
Yeah, I see.
And if the biggest opportunities are in financial institutions and insurance companies and stuff like that, they're dealing with 30 to 40-year-old legacy systems that still haven't been updated to deal with, on-prem or cloud. Some of them are still struggling with that. And my point is, it's not that it's not technically hard. At some level, it's relatively hard. But all the other components. So I think one of the things that these FDs are going to do when they go into a company, when they sit there, sure, if it's remember, if it's private equity, it's a smaller firm, potentially. And even if it isn't, it means that so if a private equity buys a company to run it better, to consolidate it into maybe other things, and to make it more profitable, to make the operations more profitable, then the understanding must be that they never modernize their operations.
Yeah.
So you can't just drop agentic AI into it and just go, now you're winning. Do you know what I mean? So what the FDs are going to do, and this is why I think the consulting thing is actually going to be really big, for better or for worse, is because they're going to have to go into a lot of these companies, whether it's these PE companies or incumbent existing institutions, and just say, let's start here. Because in my experience, this is the easiest place to implement this and to see how it works, and if it works inside your institution, and if it doesn't, what other things need to change. And I had a very specific conversation. I won't mention the person with whom I had this conversation last week, who works in a regional bank. And one of the things they said to me was, we don't have any technical issues with this, but we implementing it in the system infrastructure that we have right now makes no sense, because the stuff that we already have works really well. We don't want to break it. And second of all, there's no natural place for us to do it. And we'd have to change so much of our workflow that it's going to take much longer, I think, than the hype outside expects.
I see. And plus that if at the end of the day, AI was actually more expensive than hiring people, then just keep your team, right? And or hire more people, and then that's it, right? That there is no need for a complete redesign of absolutely everything you do, if at the end of the day it's going to be actually more expensive and keeping the existing workflow that works and that everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely, yeah, that's a really interesting look into the future, right? Like how AI is going to be deployed in enterprise 5 years from now, right? I think it's pretty easy to see like what are the problems today, right? Like all the problems that we talked about, like all the governance, the identities, just the workflow redesign, just like the mindset shifts and all of this. Like we see that today, but I really wonder what's gonna look like in a couple of years. I'm really wondering like what is, because once again, like we see maybe V1 of AI today with the LLM, right? Like maybe that's just V1. Like maybe V2 tomorrow we have like a new way of doing AI, like faster, more efficient, and Anthropic, like OpenAI, they figure out a way to have an agent that just run through everything, get your data in place, suggest something to you. Like, I think it's hard to imagine how this type of enterprise can evolve. Like, if tomorrow you launch like a consulting company that helps enterprises to implement AI, I think it's really easy to see what to do today, but really hard to have a 5 years plan and make sure that, okay, this is for sure how we are going to implement AI in 5 years, right? So I completely agree. That's a huge opportunity right now. Like everybody wants to integrate AI. No one knows what to do, and so if you know, then perfect, launch this business, do this for companies. But keep in mind that maybe in 2 years, in 3, in 5, either your job completely disappear or change completely, because AI is going to evolve and we don't really know where.
Right. But here's the thing, and just to put a finer point on this, both Anthropic and OpenAI believe that these FDs are necessary
today.
And my feeling is today, for sure. But remember, like, just think about what would you do with an agent?
Mhm.
Well, first of all, you're going to have to access data securely across an entire enterprise where a lot of that data, I
It's
guarantee you
hard.
this,
Yeah.
Martin, is
Mhm.
siloed.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard. I mean, plus like just the authorization, like, just the authorization, just to
Just- But,
get.
but the data then has to be secure as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really hard just to
So
get
this,
to, yeah.
yeah. So I think the thing that Aaron is saying is that this is a multi-year project,
Mhm, mhm.
and that when OpenAI goes out and Anthropic goes out to their potential clients and says you should be using it like this, like that, like this, they're just going like, we'd love to, but like, do you see
Yeah.
this mainframe we have over here?
Which means also like the speed of AI is actually like, because it's growing so fast, it actually slowed down adoption. Because if you do like this massive tech
Yeah, yeah.
transformation and then in six
Yep.
months you have something new, no, I do nothing now and I just wait until you are fully ready and you stop changing every 6 months, right?
Right.
So
So think about how not how hard it was, but just how much effort it took for us
for sure to implement
as a
AI.
massive
Yeah.
institution to to
Massive global
implement to
institution, like
say again. Say,
massive global institution.
sorry, you never get it right. You're always right on this.
With
It's a
the globe.
massive global institution to achieve the things that we wanted to achieve, and we don't have the same level of
Yeah.
legacy systems because
No.
we transitioned out of those a long time ago.
No, no, that's true. And for
We're-
us, it was
we're next
already
year.
like a massive investment in terms of time, mainly, right? Like the
Hmm,
money side is tiny compared to the time to invest, the learning that are required, like the training, the workflows that we have changed. Like everything has changed, right, since AI. And plus, I know in the back of my mind that maybe we need to do it again in 6 months or in 12 months, right? And maybe
right.
tomorrow, like today we use a model, but tomorrow there's another company that has a huge breakthrough and we want to use
Hmm.
their model. That's all the type of potential problem that we run into when you implement AI, I would say too early, right? Like with big quotes. That can be a bad thing, right? But that's definitely something to keep in mind that it's changing so fast that you may need to do this digital transformation plenty of time, right? So
And also remember, Martin, there was a moment where we thought like, okay, we're gonna have to actually increase our token
yeah,
usage.
yeah.
Let's go get approval for it.
hmm That's the
But
launch.
you remember that day, right?
Yeah, it was really launch. To
But
submit
no,
the
but it was
request.
literally like it wasn't even. You understand what I'm saying, right? It
Exactly,
wasn't
exactly.
just to put it in the context of big institutions, right? Obviously, we
hmm
didn't need to get approval, but we had a process that said, "Is it okay to do this?"
hmm
For us, it was a 4-minute phone call.
hmm
But imagine that in a big institution, and
That's true.
imagine if the guy who gives approvals on vacation.
Yeah.
Like, it seems silly, but, like, there's all
No,
this
for sure.
friction internally to change things, even if
Mm.
they're trying to change.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. And plus, I'm still convinced that even the AI company themselves, they have no idea about what the future look like for AI. They don't know at all. Like they
No, no, no,
launched,
because you said this before.
yeah, they
When
have
they
no
built the
idea.
models, they were just like, "I don't know what we're gonna use this
Exactly,
for."
yeah, exactly. They had no idea. When they launched Chat GPT, the first thing that was available was the API. Please build something.
Right,
That's
right,
what they
right,
ask people. And
right.
do you remember this company, Jasper, Michael? That were
Yeah, I do, I do.
writing email that
I
long
do.
before
But what did we say?
Chat GPT was launched, right? They had access to
Yep,
the API of OpenAI maybe a year or two before
yep,
ChatGPT was launched.
mhm,
Isn't that the proof of that they had no idea, right? Like they
right,
had this LLM, they didn't know what to build. They opened the API, they let people build stuff. Then they launched ChatGPT, and I think today we are still in this phase where we actually don't know. Even Anthropic, even in OpenAI, we have no clue. Nobody knows what AI is going to evolve, where AI is going to be in the next 5 years. We are
right.
figuring things as we go, right? So which means every orchestrator, every process, every new thing that we are building right now may completely change, right? And I think this is something to keep in mind. And even Anthropic, OpenAI, they have no idea. So they can tell you the process we set up right now is going to be okay for the next 10 years. This is impossible. You get to be ready once again that maybe in 6 months, in 12, in 2024, everything changed again, right?
So just so you know, Jasper AI raised
Yeah, in
$131 million.
like 2021 or early 2022. I think 3 months before ChatGPT. Okay,
October
June,
October 22. They did their
October
Series A in
22.
October
Okay, a
22.
month before ChatGPT. Yeah, a
They
month.
raised $125 million in their Series A. Total was 131 at a
Wow.
$1.5 billion valuation.
Wow.
Is it still there?
I mean, let me check. Jasper.ai, right?
Yeah.
So the website still works. Is it still them? They do something different now.
Of course.
But AI agents to work for marketing. So
Of course.
AI agents. So I mean, they have evolved. I don't know if it's still the same team, still the same people.
But this is also the point, Martin, get back to Aaron Levie. This is one of the other points that he's making. These FDEs are going to be experienced professionals.
Yeah.
And they're going to be guys and gals that have way more experience than the people that inside the companies in which they're being embedded have. And they're definitely going to have an edge.
For sure. Which is why this strategy is so cool, right? It's really helpful.
Right. So again, his contention here is that AI raises the floor for everybody. We know it because it's already raised the floor for us.
Yes.
Right. But it deepens the advantage for the people that actually know what they're doing.
Yeah. And are ready for the trade-off of potentially struggling a bit, right? Like during some time when you implement AI. But yeah, when you go through that, then you have a huge potential advantage, right? And that's why I think companies are willing to invest into AI, both in terms of time and money, right? Because if you do it right, then that's a risk worth taking for sure.
Yeah, and the other point that I want to make here, and Levie also makes this point too, and we've hinted at this, or we've kind of said it explicitly a little bit last week as well, and that is that there's another reason to have these people embedded in these companies.
Tell me.
And one of them is because, as we mentioned, and we say this a lot, is these big model companies don't know what the models are going to be used for.
Yeah, true.
But the clients do.
Yeah.
And those guys and gals sitting embedded inside these companies are just going like, can I use the model to do this thing? And you're like, well, we can if we build that for you.
Yeah.
So there's this feedback loop and then it goes back to the model builders, the frontier model builders, right? Like Anthropic and OpenAI. And we're like, these guys have an idea and we think that everybody that we know, or 70% of the companies that we know, can use this. And then they build that. And then they maybe build a specific sort of lightweight model just for that thing. You don't know, right?
Yeah.
But that's the other big thing. That's the other sort of benefit of having those guys and gals out in the field. Yeah.
That's a two-way street, right? Like they can provide help to implement AI, and they get feedback on the other side to help AI, to help build better AI. Which is you're right to point this out. Like this is a really important part of the equation, right? Like that's maybe the part that is the most interesting from the company itself, right? Because having a new client, that's great, but building a better product that can help the company get plenty of new clients, this is much better, right? So so that's why, like, all of this feedback loop that they are going to be able to get, super interesting. So that's why we may see that they're going to be able to gather so much more data than they had before, right? Like the number of companies they will be working with is going to explode thanks to all of these initiatives that they are doing, both OpenAI and Anthropic. So that's why maybe it's going to speed up the speed of development, right? Which once again prove that they are into an approach of test and learn, right? Like they are doing test and learn every day at the highest level, right? So yes, people would make a mistake thinking that OpenAI or Anthropic either reach the end state, this is how it's going to be forever, or they know everything that's going to happen in the next 5 years. I think no one knows, and it's definitely not the end state. We need to be ready for a lot of changes, a lot of changes. So sorry to interrupt you, but I think one of the biggest change that we may see first, if I had to do one prediction, is all the context that we are building for our AI, all the skills, all the knowledge base, all of these things may become completely useless if we can fine-tune the models ourselves.
This is your big contention, right?
Yeah,
this is in your brain. This is going on a lot. I can see it.
It's so annoying. It's so annoying, Michael. Like when you build a new agent and you have to say all the time, do not use dash. You have to put that everywhere in all of your context, in all of your brain.md files, in all of it. Every time you do something new, you launch a new agent, you have to give him this instruction. This is so stupid, right? And this is just like one very simple example. And think about it like at a massive scale when you do a lot of stuff, right? You have ton of instructions like this that are specific to you, right? And to what you want to do and to how you want to work, and all of your knowledge, all of your workflows, everything is written into either a database or a file, and you have this library, I would say, right, of file. You have this knowledge base that just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's just the instruction on how to change the default behavior of the model to what you want to do, right? This is
Exactly.
so inefficient. This is absolutely the wrong way to do that. It's the way to do that right now, I would say, right? It's like, okay, that's V1 once again, right? That's fine. Also, once again, when they launched ChatGPT in 2022, they had no idea about the agentic AI stuff, so nothing is ready for this type of workflow. So we just adapt. We have access to it right now, so it's cool, but it's definitely not the best implementation of that, right? Like, so that's why
Right.
all of this is solved if we can fine tune the model and put our knowledge base, our requirements, our unique data about our business directly inside the model. Why do you need to say, I am Michael Waits, I'm the host of the AGTP podcast and a global tech podcast inside every message you send to ChatGPT? It makes
Right.
no sense,
It should
right?
know it.
It should just know it. It makes absolutely no sense. And think about that at scale. Everybody in the world is doing this right now. They have a memory file with all the information that they send in every message they send to the AI. Every time you send a message, this is included. To me, this is
Right.
just a massive waste. So,
So
yeah.
the other thing I'm thinking about, right, is you know, you're building agents inside of an infrastructure and inside of an environment that you understand really well.
Yes.
Part of the reason why is because you built it yourself.
Yes. Yeah. True.
And you're not using generic agents to go out and do generic tasks. They're doing very, very specific things.
Yes.
And I think this is the other thing that he's contending, is that every company is going to have different workflows.
Mhm.
Right. So if you go inside of company A, even in the financial services sector, and company B, one of the differentiations of those companies is that their workflows are going to be different, and that the likelihood that the same workflow is going to be beneficial for both of them is closer to 0 than it is to 1. And because of that, he's contending that every agent that you build in any specific company is going to need to have a relatively high degree of specialization.
Yeah. And so that's why if tomorrow we want to do specialized agents, right? Then makes ton of sense to be able to fine tune them, right, and to give them the exact content, the exact information, the exact data that they need to actually perform their work better, right?
Exactly.
And so that's what I mean. That's the most obvious thing that I see into my own workflows is that, yeah, we should be able to fine tune the models, right? That would make everything so much easier.
Exactly. Okay, there's a little bit more that I want to go over here, but that's fine. So and this gap, right, between what every company is going to need and what every company already has and stuff like that is exactly what these professional services, so deployment company for OpenAI, and I can't remember the name of the company for Anthropic, but that's exactly what both of these guys are trying to do.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Exactly what we are doing. Super.
Okay.
Do you want to welcome our guest, Michael?
Let's welcome Sagi Rodin, the CEO and co-founder at Frontegg, into the show, Martin.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Sagi, can you hear us? Is everything fine?
Thank you for having me, guys.
Perfect.
I don't know if it's evening or morning for you, but
I don't know if it is either, man. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, here it's morning, so good morning.
Good morning to you as well.
Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us on the live.
It's great to have you here. Okay, Martin, let me grab this.
Perfect. Good luck, guys.
So, Sagi, again, thank you for coming on the show. It's really, really
Sure.
great to have you here. We wanted to have you on because we wanted to talk about how identity infrastructure helps SaaS companies secure AI agents, govern autonomous access, and scale enterprise-ready applications. And we just didn't think there was anybody better out there to do this than you. So thank you for doing that. But before we get to all that, maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about the important stuff that Frontegg does.
Yeah, so Frontegg is a 7-year-old startup. Actually, we're based in Mountain View, California, and Tel Aviv, Israel. We've been, battle tested with identity protection for the last, 6 to 7 years, working with huge enterprises, with mid-market company, with startups. So we kind of see the whole spectrum of identity management, mainly focusing on customer identity with our, I would say, initial product that is deployed in hundreds of organizations. And I think that the identity landscape, even before we go to agents, has changed significantly throughout the years. We've moved from identity basically generating tokens to identity managing the whole users, and the most important kind of asset, I would say, for almost any company. And when B2B started to emerge along the last, I would say, 4 years, a standard of B2B identity was kind of formed. How do we manage accounts and how we manage the different security policies for each and one of our customers if we're owners of a SaaS application or a SaaS product. So Frontegg has kind of been a pioneer in those fronts. And I think that, a year ago, obviously, our own customers started to deal with agentic and started to kind of get into this agentic revolution.
Right.
And in that, I would say that in that front, it kind of split between two main use cases. One would be an external use case, right? When you want to let agents connect to your own products, right? Through
those are agents
MCP
coming in,
or
those
CLI.
are agents coming into you via API, yeah?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Agents coming into your API. You have, little control over the agents. Always, the customer-facing kind of nuances are always intriguing, because you'll be surprised how folks, don't understand the concepts of customer-facing and what it brings, right? Because you have zero control over what is happening with the users, right? Zero control which agents they use, what security they employ on the devices, on the cloud, etc. So you need to kind of protect the incoming spectrum of connections and connectivities. Right. And the second use case is the internal use case, right? Inside organizations, a lot of companies started to kind of go through this stage of, okay, I'm not allowing anything to, everything is already happening. Doesn't matter what I allow or not. And now it's up to me to kind of enable that in the secure way. And here we're talking about agents that are connecting on behalf of users, autonomous agents that have their own identity. So what is an identity of an agent? And then it starts to connect to our ecosystem, right? It starts to connect to our Salesforce and to our Slack and to our databases. So how do we make sure that that is fine? And I have a lot of things to say about that and how different it is than just a service account. I often get kind of this question of, okay, but there's just another service account, right? It's just another.
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt for a second? When you say it's just another service account, you mean it's just like a human logging into like some system that we've given them API access to already, and then again you don't know what they're going to do? Is that what you're suggesting here?
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of we were living under the assumption that every employee, whether they connect through their own personal account or their own built application. So if they build application, they generate API keys. But we were living under the impression that we have control, because if an employee decides to do a bad thing, whether it's intentional or not, it's going to be up to them, right? Like they're going to be kind of reflected in their performance review, right? Or they're going to get kicked out of the organization.
There should be some hints, right? Like you kind of know if the guy next to you is like a bad employee because he's saying bad things about his manager, or he's already doing bad things, or maybe he's tried to see him steal some data a little bit already. So if he does something bad, you're not surprised, and maybe you can disintermediate him before he does that. But you're suggesting that, like, if you have agentic AI connecting via API into your system, they don't have a personality per se. They don't have any historical data associated with them. You don't know what they're going to do. No?
Exactly. You don't. It's unpredictable. I think even for they will be surprised sometimes from the things that they see. We see that just chatting to our Claudes and ChatGPTs, and they say, "Oh, yeah, I completely misbehaved," or whatever it is. I think that it's still unpredictable. And also, after the fact, what do you hold accountable? Like who's to be held accountable for anything bad that happened, right? With the employee, you can reflect that in their upcoming performance review, or just have them, chatting with them, and next time hopefully they won't do it, right? Because they're afraid for their job, right? But with an agent, it's completely different. How do you provide the feedback to an agent? So I think that it's completely different. The accountability is different. The predictability is different. And here, this is basically a new kind of front end, a new thing that you need to deal with. And this is where agentic identity becomes super important. One of the hottest topics that folks talk about today.
So I think about this all the time because I'm having tons of conversations with people about agents. What do we call them? Non-human identities, NHIs, right? So you take these NHIs, and whether they're internal or external, so there are different risks, it seems to me, whether they're internal or external. But to me, it's actually more interesting if they're external, because third-party risks to me seem more interesting or complex than first-party risks, which are internal. Can we talk a little bit about, you said you have stuff to say about this identity of these agents. I'm not so interested in the autonomous agents because I don't think there's so much autonomy out there, but just agents that have specific tasks that they're meant to do. They're given API access. How do you even define what identity means for a specific agent, if that's fair to say? And then how do you enforce rules and governance and boundaries once they get inside, once you allow them inside your system? Yeah.
It's a great point, and I think that this is, I told you that I have a lot to say about it. I think that if there's one thing, what? Let's make it two things that I would like folks to think about, maybe by after hearing this conversation, is first of all, we were under the assumption that there's an external and there's an internal, but when you're talking about an LLM. And usually the LLM that powers the agents is not built by us inside the organization. So it would always be something external, right? So even if it's an employee that built an LLM, or employee that uses ChatGPT as an assistant, or builds a workflow with Zapier or N8N, the LLM that powers that is still external. So this is the brain, right? So this is kind of the first thing that maybe changes a bit. The second thing is that once we had predictability over the code that is being written. So if we're looking at the internal use case, for example, I'm coming from Checkpoint before the entrepreneurship kind of journey with Frontegg. I've been 5 years there in charge of the cloud infrastructure at Checkpoint. The Fortune 100 customers, a lot of responsibility. And I think that, when a new SaaS application was going to be built within Checkpoint, or we were acquiring other companies, we would make a review, a code review, right? So architectural review. Then you would have this security person sitting and checking the checks and balances of any application that is being written. And we would say, yes, this is fine, or no, give feedback. And then they would come back to us, and et cetera, et cetera. But we knew that, during these periods of approval, we should be pretty much fine, right? Because we reviewed it. But today the code is dynamic. You can't keep the scope. Everything is dynamic. There's applications today, which is basically, we're saying agents. It's a very sexy word for an application at the end of the day that is powered by an LLM. But the code itself is a dynamic code. The decisions there are non-deterministic decisions that are being changed on the fly. So how do you review that, right? Can you review every second of it? Yeah.
I just want to say, I want to dig deeper into this if you don't mind, because this is running around in my head right now. Because you have so much knowledge about this, and I've been thinking about this a lot recently too, this idea of like probabilistic versus deterministic, right? You said they're non-deterministic. So I want to back up a little bit, because you said that the engine and the brain that's running these agentic AI implementations are large language models, right? So these are transformer models. Do you see a world, particularly coming out of the background you have at Checkpoint, right, which is clearly interesting in the context of what you're doing now at Frontegg, yeah? Because a lot of the things you're talking about with identity will have to do with security. But I'm curious
For
what you
sure.
think about developing models that are more deterministic to use for agentic AI as their brain rather than using these frontier transformer models, which are always going to be probabilistic by definition because that's the way they're written.
Yep.
Or am I missing something technically around, like, are we using the right brain is, I guess, the question I'm asking. And if we're not,
Yeah, it's a great, I just can, those are, it's great that you asked that, because, I came back just last week in Fort Lauderdale, meeting with, dozens of CISOs.
yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I heard, and this is very interesting, because, they were talking about the reporting experience of what they expect a security product to provide in terms of reporting, right?
Right.
Because in the old days, like 3 years ago, you would see, an overview screen, some charts, you can export a PDF with some report or things like that, right? But now they expect AI, right? They want to write, okay, build me a report of the cost of ownership for that, and that, or quantify the risk of those agents that are deployed on
Right.
my machine,
Right,
or
right.
email security, or whatever it is, right? But the next thing that they said is, I want the AI to generate the reports, but I want it to be deterministic, because when I'm asking, what is the cost of risk that I have right now in my organization?
Right.
And at one time it will tell me $3 million. And then on the second request, it will say $30 million.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
No.
So to your question, I think that we don't have a choice. We need to put some kind of guardrail, some kind of standards, so that even with this whole dynamic approach, which is amazing, right?
Mhm.
We don't expect it to be, that's the beauty of AI, right? That it thinks, it takes into account everything, it gives us the best answer for our question. But if I'm asking the same question 5 times
And getting
and
5
there's
different answers, it's not good, right?
exactly, not in products, not in SaaS applications, where the user expects, they're relying on this data. They're gonna talk about it, present it to their board, to their CEO,
Right.
and we just can't allow things to fluctuate, and we need to trust the data and the product. So to your question, we don't have a choice. We need to find the sweet spot of where it's predictable, but still, kind of uses the power of AI.
Yeah, look, I mean, I like to make analog to digital analogies because I think it's the easiest way for non-technical people to understand this. But you're right. If I went to my boss when I was at Goldman Sachs and he said, how much money do you think this product is going to make us? And I said, $3 million. And then I came back the next day and said 30. He'd be like, that's interesting. You're fired, right?
Exactly.
So I don't know how that would work because I would need to be more deterministic in some of the things that I said. But there must be a way to combine this idea of, well, from a probabilistic standpoint, we think that this is the case because there are some places where you don't know. It's hard to determine. It's not predictable, right? But in other cases, like
Right.
6 times 7 is always going to be 42 if you're using base 10. Like that's just a fact. It always is. It may look like a different number if you're using base 3 or base 2 or whatever, but the number itself theoretically is still going to be 42, regardless of how it gets
Exactly.
gets shown, right? Gets displayed.
Exactly. I think that another topic to, we're talking in general, kind of how AI produces the answers, but how do we quantify risk in the AI age is also a big topic that, is not being discussed today enough, I think.
Yeah.
And, because this whole unpredictability, undeterministic models, all of that adds a lot of questions to what happens tomorrow if one chain there makes a mistake, and how that will impact us. And I think that with identity, it's also very, very important, especially with access management, because
Yeah.
we're already starting to see chains of agents that call each other, even chains of agents that sometimes. This is, the third thing that maybe I want people to kind of come out from this conversation. It is, we're thinking today about agents as, okay, this, either ChatGPT, right? This is the first thing we think about. Or we're thinking about these developers that are using Cloud Code or something like that to develop things. They deploy them on cloud, it runs, they ask them questions. Great. But almost everything within our organization today is an agent, because think about it that, if you're using Notion or you're using Slack, and suddenly the new features of those applications are AI powered features, suddenly we have an LLM in the kind of just inventory of SaaS applications that we use on a daily basis.
Yeah,
so our data reaches the LLMs even if we don't intend it to.
exactly. So it's embedded into applications that you're already using. This is like a new feature, exactly as you're suggesting. But then again, like you didn't ask for that feature per se, you didn't test that feature per se, you don't know what the implications of using that feature is, and you're right, you're getting exposed to that LLM without actually not knowing about it, but without actually any choice around it. Yeah.
Exactly. And you need to protect it. You need to take responsibility. You need to make sure that, the access control over there is still fine. You need to make sure that you're not breaking any compliance controls.
Right.
I'll give you an example of a very simple use case that I'm sure happens in almost any organization today. If somebody would just, raise an eyebrow, we would be talking about, billions of dollars of a court and legal. And this is, at the end of the day, some of those LLMs are being trained upon the data that they get, right?
I mean,
now think about application A. Let's say we have a productivity application that we're using inside the organization, and it uses LLM A, right? And then we have application B that is a CRM, right? And it holds the customer data that we have. And think about a very basic integration between application A and application B, right? And now this productivity tool has all the data just as before, right? About our customers. And that's fine. Maybe that's fine because, it has SOC 2 compliance and this one has SOC 2 compliance and it's all great. But now this application A, because it's connected to the LLM, shares the data with the LLM. Okay, now we might have a problem because this LLM
customer data that is now the LLM to train off of. This is really bad, yeah?
Exactly. And this is a big problem. We have a compliance breach. Nobody is aware, right? Nobody is aware what application A, what it does with the data.
Yeah. So can I ask you this? Because you're making a really good point. I want to simplify it just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What do you do? Like, how should companies think about this? They have these API. These are all entry points into their systems. Yeah. This is going to get a little bit meta. I have two really big questions here. The first is when FDEs go into these big companies, and I was spending, you know what I mean, right? These
right. Yeah.
These, I'm sorry, field deployed engineers, excuse me, go into these big companies. One of the pieces of advice that they might give is, look, all of your data is siloed, and to make it more useful, you're going to have to consolidate that data into a much larger data lake as opposed to having data here, because if you actually want to make decisions based on all of your data, then your artificial intelligence, whether it's agentic or not, is going to need to see a full view of this stuff. That's interesting, right? But how do you balance then this idea of, if you have agentic AI coming through an API entry point into your environment, now they have access to all of your data. Like, how do you then restrict it again? Because you're being told it shouldn't be siloed, but in some ways it should be siloed for security reasons at some level, no? How do you balance those things?
So I think that the most important thing today is to try and find, and I'm having those, conversations every day, at least 4 or 5 conversations like that with customers, with prospects, with friends, with colleagues. And I think that one thing that at this point we need to make sure that we have is some kind of guardrail over the access control to our data. Right? We need to make sure we have a system. And I think that in most organizations, it's very hard to deploy a system because if we would have only single entry points. So for example, I have been talking again with the CISO, and she was telling me, listen, we're a Microsoft shop, right? And that's fine. We have Copilot, and Copilot is going to take care of all of the things. And I always say that, listen, if you're sure that, you're only going to have Copilot and you're only going to have one kind of AI system inside your organization, that's fine. Maybe they will take care of the data. Some will do it better. Some will do it, and they will improve, and that's okay. But the reality is that in every organization, there's at least 4 or 5 LLMs involved. right? Even if you think that there's not, there are.
Right.
And there's dozens of applications and dozens of chat interfaces of all sorts and kinds. And even if you think that it doesn't happen, it is happening. And this is where, regardless of whether the entry point of the agents is external or internal, or the entry point is through an assistant or through an autonomous agent, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you need something that would sit in front of your data layer, and every access to that data layer, whether it's SaaS applications, whether it's your APIs, whether it's data sources, databases, whatever it is, it needs to be governed and protected. So this is one thing that I would try. And, obviously I'm biased because we built a solution for that. We have this, AI layer, AI protection layer in front of data. But I would argue that regardless of whether we're the chosen solution with Agent Co or some other solution, try to build a system while you still can, because otherwise, it will get out of control very fast. Today, it's easier to do that. It's still possible. We see that it's not that hard. And also, I'm sure we won't cover 100% of the cases, but we'll cover most of them. But I think that in a year from now, if you're not going to act now, there's going to be a lot of data access chaos inside the organizations.
Yeah, I get really concerned about companies being able to create the proper level of governance and understanding today so that they can be prepared for tomorrow. And I think you're right. Maybe you can give an example of where you think things can get out of control if certain things don't get done today, if that makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're talking to a CISO and you're like, you need to do at least these few things, otherwise stuff is going to get out of control, because whether it's internal connections to your data or external connections, this identity stuff is actually going to become really important. And if you don't address it now, it's just going to be impossible later.
Yeah, and I'll give you one example that we're dealing with a lot with our customers. One of the things that happened with connectivity and integrations with within the last year, I think it was felt more than before, is the importance to have proper OAuth 2.1, whatever it is, the standard, but have a proper support for on behalf of user connectivity. So that means that if I'm connecting my ChatGPT to, let's say, Salesforce, right? Salesforce supports OAuth 2 connectivity. That means that we can see who's the user that stands behind the agent, and we can have this accountability. We can have the propagation of least privilege access and control. So that means, in the most kind of basic way, that the agent that I'm using as Sagi will never have more permissions than Sagi had for Salesforce, right? Hopefully. Hopefully, but with OAuth 2, it's kind of implied, right? And it's explicit. But what happens is that a lot of applications and SaaS products today, they don't have this support for OAuth 2. So that means that if somebody wants to connect to data, they need to use generated API keys. So basically, when I go into an admin console of my SaaS application, I generate an API key because I can. Usually this API key, except of the audit of generation, it's not bound to my permission and to my scopes. So this API key lives on its own. It's its own kind of access entity. And when I give it to an LLM, what basically happens is that now I have an application that has a lot of access that probably doesn't need. It's not audited in most of the cases. So it makes the calls to get the data. You won't get audits almost anywhere. And this is a simple kind of use case and example to where, think about the extrapolation of that in a year from now. You're going to have bunch of accounts, bunch of applications that just have a lot of data and a lot of access that they don't need. And when they get compromised, even one of them, you're facing a serious breach and brand reputation and everything, right?
So this is actually a really interesting point. I hope people fully understand this. The way the authorization system is working right now is that if you generate an API key to give access to something, it's not necessarily associated with Sagi or with Michael today if you're not
Right.
using, what do you say, auth 2, yeah? So,
Right.
so are there other places within the API infrastructure or just the data infrastructure? There must be, where when they were built originally and in their current state, they weren't created to worry about this agentic AI, so that other things then need to be fixed and disintermediated as well, not just that point that you just made.
Yeah. So I think that there are plenty of use cases like that. I would say that most of the controls that were built for authentication, for authorization, are not built to handle the scale of agents. I'll give you another example. Refresh tokens are a big thing. So, for example, when a human being is connected to an application, right? Let's say we're opening our browsers, we're making a login, we're generating a token, and then basically we have this refresh mechanism. So the next time that we will need to access, it will perform some refresh, and can use the token. I don't have to relog in again. And then if it will kind of surpass a certain amount of time, like 2 weeks, it will make me, log me out, and I will have to relog in, right? Today we talk to organizations, and with the agentic usage, suddenly, where you're used to getting to the ChatGPT, asking it to do all kinds of things. You don't want to relog in, right, to all kinds of SaaS applications that the agent is pulling data from, on a daily basis, or even on a weekly basis. You just don't want to manage that. There's no great solution for that. So, for example, our gateway today handles those refreshes and make sure that that it's refreshed when needed and reinitiated when not, and things like that. But if you don't have a middleware today that takes care of that for you, you're basically either sacrificing experiences, right, or you're sacrificing the security aspect of it. No great solution out of the box today for agentic refresh, I would say. So this is just another example, and I have a lot of examples like that, because I think that on the connectivity front, nobody expected that things will happen, will move so fast. In a lot of applications today, the API access that they provide basically is not, is not awesome, and it's even for previous kind of use cases. So for sure, not for the agentic use case. Unfortunately, we will get there, and everybody will have to kind of perform those transformation within their products and their ecosystems, but it might take time because they themselves are first dealing with security matters of their own, and it's basically like a chaos right now on the access front.
It must be. I mean, look, big companies like Salesforce, as you said, they're trying to give API access to every little single functionality that they've built into their system. And I think all the other big SaaS companies that have value are going to do the same thing. But you're right, because they're dealing with security on their own side as well. The companies that do this well, I think, are really going to thrive, and the companies that don't, I think, are going to have real problems. Okay, look, Sagi, I love this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Say again.
I enjoyed it a lot. I think that these are topics that are super hot. We hear them all day, and it's great. The questions that you ask are very, very relevant.
Awesome. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this. I will let you go now. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Okay, that's it for AGTP Daily. Really want to thank Sagi for coming in and doing this. That was an awesome conversation. And thank you to all the people that are watching today. Thank you so much for joining us. Give us a thumbs up on today's video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all of our socials, on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. And let us know in the comments if there's anything you would like us to discuss on upcoming shows. And definitely ask us questions. If you ask us stuff, we'll try to answer it on the show as well. We'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you again for Martin for participating today. My name is Michael Waitz.